Hey everyone, this is Frank coming at you with another video on how to achieve better audio playback from Sibelius using Cubase. In this video, I will show you how to create multiple audio outputs from within Kontakt, route that in in Cubase, and that way you can have individualized plugins and processing per instrument, again, to achieve better audio playback. So without any further delay, let's get to it. All right, everyone, so here we are within Cubase. Just real quick, just as a reminder, we are controlling from Cubase, but then we have playback coming here from Sibelius. So what I'll do real quick, just kind of show you how this sounds. Hang on. Need to turn monitoring on. All right, here we go. So you can see here, playback line coming from Sibelius. Then following the same timeline here within Cubase. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up multiple outputs, within Kontakt, one for each instrument, which is actually pretty simple. So first step we'll do is we'll create the outputs within Kontakt, and we do that by clicking on this little plus button here. Then we'll go here to sound card host output, and then this is the one that's already activated. So then we'll go to the next pair, KT aux 1, 1 and KT aux 1, 2, and then click OK. So this is what we'll use for the tenors, and then we'll do that one more time. So we have for the basses. So this is the main one they're using for snares. This is the one we'll use for tenors, and then this is what we'll use for the bass. Okay, and if you want within here, if you want to rename it for your own organization, snare, tenor, bass, feel free to do so. And then from here, see output snare. Right now this is output snare. We're going to switch it to tenor. Down here to bass, the output snare. Switch that to bass. So from here, we are done within Kontakt. Then we go back to Cubase. Go to this little arrow here, activate outputs. Here's the one that's already activated, which is what the snares are using. Here's what tenors we use, and here's what basses we'll use. So as I click those, you see added channels here. So if we go to this, so if I take monitoring off, see now we only have snares coming out through here. We only have tenors coming out through here. And then we have basses coming out through here. Turn on monitoring on all of them. We have a full drum line. Obviously, basses are kind of overpowering everything. Tenors kind of overpowering too. So what we could do at this point, probably be a good idea here to rename this. So here we are. Name this to snares. Name this to tenors. Name this to bass. And of course, at this point, if you wanted to be further organized, you could color these to make it easier to keep track, but which I highly recommend. But in this case, since it's so few, I'm just going to leave it as is. So now, what can we do with this? So now that we have individual outputs per instrument, obviously we can rebalance them. For one, we can do some panning. Right. So kind of however you would have it with an actual drum line. But more importantly, we can add some processing. So let's add some plugins here. So what I'll do first, kind of a baseline thing we'd want to do is add some EQ. So I'm going to use the EQ, one of the EQs that comes with Cubase, just because it's free and it's actually pretty good. So let's kind of listen to some unmodified virtual drumline snare line. So this is what the sound actually looks like. So a couple of things here. We have some rumble here. So one of the things you may want to do first is using this first frequency band here, switch this to a cut, about 12 dB, so it sounds pretty transparent. And while this may not be entirely audible, this is still eating up headroom in your final mix, and it's not anything usable, so we can go ahead and get rid of that. So then here we can, let me turn that off real quick. So then here within this, we can really shape the way the snares sound. So what I'd like to think of here in this, you know, if you're writing battery parts or percussion parts to a full band arrangement, you want the drum line as a whole to cut through, be present, but still not get in the way of the wind parts. So you got to think about a lot of the wind parts, and happily here, you know, you can see the frequency spectrum here. So hopefully in the upper right corner of this, you can see what frequency we are. But then here you can also see where we are in terms of piano notes. You know, so you got to think about the fundamental of a lot of the wind instruments. A lot of it's going to live here. So one working idea here with this is that anything here from the drum line, you know, the sound of the drum is going to get in the way of the band, get in the way of harmony, and just kind of muddy everything up. So if we just take a listen again to the snare. So here I'm just going to grab band 3. You know, there's some body of the snare that lives here, right? But in my opinion, this is going to get in the way of a lot of what the band is doing. So I actually like to kind of cut around this frequency range here, just to get some of the sound of the drum out of the way of the band. Then here, some of the brightness of the snare kind of comes through. So I personally like to kind of accentuate this a little bit to help it cut through. Now what I may do here is just narrow that cue just a little bit, keep it a little bit more focused. And it's about almost a 6 dB, 5.6 dB boost. Yeah, so I think that's actually pretty extreme. So let's just take a second to kind of just listen to that. Now let's compare it to what we had before. Right, so a much brighter sounding drum. So I mean, at this point you could call this good. I like to add a little bit of more air, more high end here. So I'll actually go up here to the 8th band, switch this to a high shelf, kind of bring this back down about here, maybe a little bit less. Kind of A/B some of that. Now, one thing I should note here that most, like if you you know, if you're making MP3s of this, if you're exporting MP3s, we'll put them on YouTube, like I am. At this point right here, on is going to be cut out. So MP3 is just cut from 15K on out. Won't exist in the if you export it as an MP3. So again, here's the EQ'd sound, original. EQ'd, original. Okay, so again, now here, of course, the EQ, the way I have it EQ'd, it's a much brighter sounding snare line. You may like that, you may not. You know, the point is kind of be aware of, you know, some of the depth of the body of the snare is going to come through here. Some of that piercing, what's going to cut through is going to be here. I mean, if you want to do complete opposite of what I'm doing, you know, you can do that, you know. I don't think you'd want to, but you could. But point is, just kind of be aware of what you want the drum line to sound like and what the end goal is for the drum to sound with the full ensemble. Again, I'm thinking is I want the snares, the drum line to be present. I want it to be clear, but I don't want it to be in the way of everything else. So EQing is one of those things, one of those ways to get to achieve that effect. get the frequencies here out of the way of the rest of the ensemble, do a little bit of a cut here, and then a little bit of a boost here, so it still cuts through the ensemble, but doesn't get in the way of everything else. Okay, so next thing we can do to further shape the sound is add some compression. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to go here to one of my favorite ones, Fabfilter Pro V2. Mostly, the included compressor with Cubase is pretty good, and there's a ton of other really great compressors. But what's great about Fabfilter is just the interface, and you can actually have some visual reinforcement of what you're doing, and it's also really helpful in learning what stuff sounds like. You can see how it's reshaping the sound, and that kind of, I think, helps you learn too. The other thing about this, when you think about compression, the baseline of compression is it takes the loudest points and the softest points of the sound and squishes them together, quote unquote compresses it to flatten everything else out. But compressors also can reshape transients and really help make drums especially more punchy, and to get some more of the impact of the transient to cut through. Which again, for me, I want to hear the impact of the stick hitting the drum, and I want it to cut through, and then I want the rest of the drum to get out of the way as much as possible, because again, in the band setting, we want to hear that impact, or at least that, to me, that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear a lot of the body of the drum, because it just tends to get in the way of everything and muddy everything up. And in digital audio, there's only so much space for volume and sound. So anyways, so let's kind of get some sound going through this. Okay, so let's kind of mess with some controls here if you're not familiar with some of these. So first thing here, threshold. At what point does the compressor kick in? So let's bring it down a little bit to where the compressor is like actually doing something. And what's cool about this, you can see, some visual feedback as to what the compressor is doing. Okay. Then let's kind of mess here with the ratio, and let's, this will be like how much the compressor is controlling the sound, dipping it down. So if we have it here all the way to 1, not doing anything. If we have it here, this is at point limiting, it's just basically squashing everything to sound. So we're gonna have it kind of here to like 6. And then here the attack, how soon does the compressor initiate? So if this is, here 0.005 milliseconds, we're flattening everything out. And again, going back to kind of what my idea is as to how this should sound, I want that transient to go through, I want that impact to go through. So if the compressor is really fast, it's not going to let anything through. So we'll probably have about here, about 23-ish, where it lets a little bit of that first part of the sound of the hit through. And then here we have the release, is when the compressor will let it go. Generally, I kind of like to have the release at about double what the compressor is or so, maybe 3 times as much, around that, double to 3 times as much, kind of around that ballpark. And here, auto gain. What's nice about here, well, with the Pro C compressor, it tells you the input gain and the output gain. So what you want to do here is some schools of thought. If you want to kind of redo the volume with the compressor, you can. But if you really just want to use the compressor to reshape transients, kind of reshape the sound, like what I'm going for here, you probably want to keep this about the same. So here, the compressor is kind of dropping volume just a little bit. So we're going to bring the wet gain knob up here just a little bit, so we can get them to match the input to match the output. Okay, and it's kind of A and B this, pre-compressor and then with compressor, see how we can rehear the shape of the sound, or the difference in the sound from before and after. So this is before. After. So subtle. Maybe you want to put some more slightly higher ratio. Maybe here, kind of do a slightly harder knee on this. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that at that. So like I said, here with the compressor, EQ and compressor and compression, we can do a lot of reshaping of the sound, make a much more punchy sounding drum line that doesn't get in the way of the band, but is still very clear. At this point, I mean, for basic processing, this is actually a pretty good place to be if you want to be real fancy. You can maybe add some distortion, some saturation to this, just to kind of give it like an analog flavor if you want. But you definitely don't need to do that, especially with a plugin like this, SPL Twin Tube, one of my favorite saturation plugin, but it is a little bit pricey. Hopefully you hear that just kind of adds a little something. Of course, I just kind of threw that on there. But if you want to add like any kind of analog flavor to the sound, like it's going to some, you know, maybe some more vintage audio gear, just to add some coloration, there's something you can do. So anyways, so here, you know, since kind of go back to your original point, first thing we talked about the multiple outputs from Kontakt. Here I have a different output for snares, tenors, and basses. So I mean, if we were to kind of look at the tenors here, go to the frequency plugin. Let me bring that over here. Let me bring up tenors. So like here again, we can see totally different frequency information from the tenors. Might boost this here, might just boost here to get some more attack. Maybe too much there, but you know, kind of a similar idea. But point is, we have custom shaping per instrument versus if we had you know, every single instrument or drum line going off of one output. You know, it'd be kind of like trying to make everything fit into like a one size fits all type of thing, when that's not the case. That's not how this works. So doing this gives you the multiple outputs, gives you more control over the sound of the full drum line. And then, you know, you think about that, you know, expand that to the full percussion section with concert bass, with marimba, with vibe. Or even one thing we can talk about, you know, in another video, you know, if you have, you know, a typical marimba player, you know, in the front ensemble, you would have marimba, you know, cymbals, maybe something extra like jam blocks or whatever, any other instrument, djembe, whatever. Have multiple instruments from, you know, one marimba player. You can have separate outputs per instrument, you know, marimba, cymbals, and like say djembe, you know, 2-3 totally different sound profiles. And then add processing and EQ and compression that's unique to each instrument, and have more control over your overall sound. So that's about all I have for this video. Hopefully this is helpful, and I'll keep them coming. Again, feel free to leave comments. Feel free to message me. Again, I'm on Facebook on the MAD group, the video group, and the Wind and Percussion Arrangers group. Let me know if these are helpful, or if you have any requests as to some other videos I can make to help you guys out in making your sound better. So appreciate your time, and y'all take care.